update you a little bit about that special area of giving that we've referred to. And since our ushers look so great this morning, I'm sure they don't mind standing at attention for just a moment. Back in the late 1940s, one of the great pastors here, and a long line of great pastors, was Charles McLean. He served here, and they had just built a new parsonage in what is now a parking lot. Some of you may remember this far back. Reverend McLean had two children, Julia and Jim. They grew up and continued their education at what was then SLI, UL now. They commuted daily to Lafayette, and Jim in particular, as he was looking at finishing his degree, had committed himself in this church to the ministry. This was before there was a United Methodist Church, but in the Methodist Church. Tragically, however, his father died right here serving this appointment. In fact, it was on a Sunday after they had just finished communion services. The bishop graciously allowed Jim, the son, to be a lay preacher for a few months that the family might stay in the parsonage while they figured out what now they were going to do. Just recently, I received a letter from Jim, now 84 years old, and he relates this. Says, needless to say, my financial prospects for seminary were very grim at the time. It was at this point that some generous leaders in this congregation, led by the wonderful Sam White, as I recall, started a fund to underwrite my expenses while at seminary. To make a long story short, they supported me for 3 years, providing tuition, room and board, books, and even spending money. It was an act of Christian generosity and charity that still moves me this many years later. After seminary, I served appointments at various churches around this conference. I was even privileged to preach back here at First Methodist of New Iberia. I eventually continued in education, and he goes on to speak about serving as a professor at LaGrange College and Georgia State University, and finally retiring and being actively involved in the Dunwoody United Methodist Church with his wife for decades since then. He says, although I am no longer in the active ministry, those experiences of seminary and living in this congregation very much define who and what I am. My life has been greatly enriched by the kindness of the people there who gave of themselves and their resources at a time when my family and I desperately needed help. For years, I've wanted to offer some tangible expression of my gratitude. He says, I've enclosed a gift with the full understanding that I owe the members of First Methodist Church more than I could ever repay. Even as I approach my 84th birthday, a sense of gratitude still overwhelms me. 70 years later, a wonderful legacy, just one thread of that legacy comes marvelously to light. I want you to know that what we're about always is just this, shaping lives, touching people's lives, and sometimes that necessitates other things, but that's always the goal in mind. Even though we might speak about different aspects of our facilities, we might speak about the nuts and bolts of what it takes to be in ministry together to the world, this is always our goal, that we might touch people's lives. So I say that not to twist your arm or give you a story that might compel you to be a part of this campaign or this giving or anything, but to remind all of us that that is what we're about, serving others as disciples of Jesus Christ. And I hope that our prayers, our support, our gifts, all that we do, holds that in mind. That is our legacy. And together we can continue a beautiful legacy, just like this church has done so well in the past, touching Jim McLean's life and thousands of others whose stories we may never hear this side of heaven. But trust me, there are thousands and thousands of other such stories because we continue faithfully that legacy. May we indeed be faithful in all that we do, so there are many other Jim McLeans in our future, in future generations far beyond us who sit here and hear those stories. With that, I want Bud Lee to share just a bit with you about some of our ongoing ministry together.
What a wonderful story from years past. That gift from Reverend McLean is a sizable gift, and it will be the cornerstone for the capital campaign, which we started at the same time about a week and a half ago that this gift came in, which is truly a kingdom story. Together with Reverend McLean's gift and some other gifts that have responded already to this capital campaign, we've raised right at $10,000 towards the $120,000. Two things to keep in mind. First of all, each of you should have gotten in the mail this brochure with a self-addressed stamped envelope to return your gift. This is not the stewardship campaign, the pledge campaign that we do annually to maintain the general operations of the church. This is over and above. Please keep that in mind. The stewardship campaign generally is in January. This is a campaign which we have started to complete and finance some very needed renovations to continue to maintain this church in the absolute beautiful condition that it is. Our hats go off to Jerry Wallace and his committee. So many people in this congregation have had a part in so many things that we would be here all day to talk about them. It really started with the stained glass windows a few years ago with Dennis Bingham and his wonderful crew. The chandeliers were the next step. The thing that is most pressing at this point is that we need to replace this sound system, which is improvised, as you can see. That is well underway. It's actually been ordered and will be installed probably within the next month. That's a sizable financial burden, around $25,000. So keep all those things in mind as you consider this campaign. If you have any questions, ask myself, Jerry Wallace, the pastor, or any of the members of the trustees about those projects. And if you see anything else that you think needs attention, certainly let us know. One last reminder, when you send in your check for the capital campaign, make it out to First United Methodist Church, but put down in the note column that it is for the capital campaign so that it doesn't get mixed in with the other things. This church is in good shape financially. When you look back and consider that this church was built in 1891, it's a remarkable statement to the faithfulness of this congregation throughout the years. And when you hear a story like the one that came from Reverend McLean, just from nowhere out of the blue, it renews all of our faith and hope in the future of this church. Thank you.